Hey guys, it's Matt. This channel, the Vannessa VA channel, a few other channels, we are kind of building on each other's thoughts with the goal of understanding who are these people around us? Who are these people around us? And her thoughts are very similar to mine. We disagree in a few areas. I want to try to build on what I've done in the past, what she's doing, and to try to summarize our best understanding of who are these people around us. And that is one of the main topics that most people are interested in. And before we get started, I need to make the very important channel announcement that Matt's shirt says Matt, but it's backwards because that's the default when I bought my Mac. Not because I spent 5 years in an underground research center with Aleister Crowley alkalites. It was the default on the Mac when I bought it, and I don't care to change it. Not after 10 years on the same Mac. So one thing I want to add with who are these people around us, and then I'll come back and I'll summarize kind of what we've learned up to this point. But this is something I'm not sure many people have focused on, and I was really thinking of this when I was listening to her last video, which I will link to. Um, Whenever people around me, past friends and family members, of course the closest family members, understand my position on things at this point. Uh, 9/11, of course, and things like that. And not one of them has ever come to me and said, there's no way I'll ever come around, Matt, to what you're thinking on this. I just don't see me ever coming around. But I want to understand you. I want to understand where you're coming from. You know, let's sit down together for an hour and I want to understand. How can you possibly think that? I want you to talk to me about it. See, this is to me because that never happens. And I would say, do I know your own personal experiences? Well, no, of course not. There's a lot of people watching, and I don't know your own personal experiences, but I'm going out on a limb and I'm going to say, I know the way the people interacting in this reality act, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I guarantee that's almost never or never happened to you. Somebody saying, you believe in, what about Captain Hook? Chris Tucker, El Capitan. You believe what? How? That's crazy. But I want to understand. How could you think that? Let's talk. Let me clear the table out here and get a beer. Let's talk for an hour. They don't ever do that. I know nobody's going to say that's ever happened to them. In fact, so see what we need when we come up with something that we know the way they're going to act, we can then use that to determine what these people are. That's a pretty harsh and nasty thing to say about the people around us. But we need to say, oh, that's an interesting trait. What does that mean? What type of person or entity would act that way? And to me, because they never do that, it does absolutely support the downloaded vessel, the downloaded consciousness that may be uh, only in this place with no connections to anywhere else. That's one of the things that I think separates us from them. People like me, people like me, people like me, people like you from them. The body snatched. Look at us! What do you? I'm not gonna shriek. That would be really freak people out. Like Levette's dog barked really into the microphone the other day, and like 1,000 people were like, it freaked everybody. It was like 1,000 times louder than the video was as it was being presented. But I want to shriek. I'm not going to do it. The Donald Sutherland at the end. So we need to use their traits to understanding them, and it does immediately the fact that they don't ever want to understand, which is an empathy trait, a lack of empathy trait. It does go along with my theory on reality changing very, very often, or becoming. There's no reason to confuse any. Let's just keep it simple. Moving into a degraded state where things don't make sense, and tomorrow likely will make less sense than today. That is the trajectory of the pendulum. So when it resets, remember the Andy doll I had? the reality resets to what State Farm and these minion assholes call a new normal. That's not just a truth drop for this C thing. It's a truth drop for reality itself moving to weird new places, lower degradation. The Andy doll, remember, moves with it. It moves. It Andy moves. It moves with reality. They're in sync. That's the downloaded mind. We're rooted somewhere. It moves. We don't move at all. So we say, look at that. It's just move. This shit ain't normal. This shit ain't normal. But they move with it. It's completely normal. So it goes along the fact that they have no empathy, saying, well, friends that go back 30 years that have all this history with, best man in the wedding, blah, 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 and that think I'm just off my rocker because I have certain viewpoints about all these conspiracies. They don't ever want to get to the bottom of it and say, I'm driving over. We're going to talk this through. I need to understand you. Never, right? Never. So what does that say? We'll try to summarize that a little bit later. What's the one area where I disagree with Vannessa VA? It's this area. A few areas I disagreed with. We mostly agree, of course, on that we are a unique group and the people around us are really like the Declaration of Independence, the opposite. All men are created equal. The Declaration of Independence, right off the bat, all men are created equal. When it's just a deception that there are many different types of people here, or different types of souls, spirits, people that I believe have attachments and links out of here, out of the snow globe, and people that are kind of rooted here. And maybe this is all they will ever know, those types of differentiators. A good friend of the channel has certain experiences in his life, has been trying to explain to me how we are actually just an aspect, a small aspect, like the pinky finger of higher self, the connection. Higher self's out of here. It's just basically using this aspect of itself to gain information, to have an experience. So we're here. We think this is the entirety of us, but it's almost like we're being used. For higher self says, it's kind of like saying, would if your higher self, would you take a little piece of skin and throw it into this bucket, and it'll have a whole lifetime in there? And let's say that the piece of skin in the bucket gets effed over and gets, is in skid row and all these bad things happen. Would you really, if you were higher self, would you really care about the little piece of your callus that you sent in there? No. Oh, the callus up, the time's up. Ding, the buzzer went off. That thing's dead. Okay, let's put it back in. Put it back in. Oh, I got the experience. It's key. It describes it almost like we're being used, but whatever. At least again, we all know we didn't come up. We didn't come in here to bend over and have a like a moist air blown up our butt. Oh, that feels good. We came in here to get our ass kicked. That's why we're here, to get our ass kicked. So that's whatever. I'm just happy that I have a connection to something out of here. Um, and that's disturbing to some people. Well, we potentially could be, and I'm not saying I don't, this is just what this individual shares with me, and a lot of it resonates as being true or potentially very true. I don't have an after death experience or any way of knowing this stuff. I take it and apply it to what I think is at this point a finely tuned inner knowing, a finely tuned inner tuning fork. And he'll say something, and I go, that resonates as being true. That's what I bring to the table, but I have no actual experience to or be able to talk like this. And I'm not promoting that idea either. I'm just saying it's interesting what he says, and it's something to keep on the table. If it scares you that what you think is you is potentially not all of what is you, there's nothing reason to be scared of that. I'm sure in the grand scheme of things, it'll just make perfect sense. When you wake up from a dream in the morning, whoever that dream was. I actually dreamt my friend Greg, I dreamt he had no internet access and he was trying to use dial-up a week ago. It was such a dumb dream I didn't even mention it to him. But then like right after that I lost internet access for almost 3 full days, and I lost it a couple times yesterday, but now it's back, I think. Yeah. It's back. So Why was I mentioning that? I was talking about Greg losing internet, then I lose internet, and oh, a dream, a dream. When you wake up from a dream in the morning, that I'm having a dumb dream about Greg losing the internet and using 28.8 dial up. Remember that? If anybody over age 45 or so, remember that dial up? You hear the squawk and all that. But okay, so I was dreaming that about Greg. I wake up in the morning and oh, you don't even think it just all made sense. That whole reality made sense. Well, this is going to be no different. Just you'll die. It's just the same. It's just like waking up. You'll it'll whether your consciousness is somewhere else looking in on you as a third person, part of higher self goes back to God, source. What it'll just make sense. So even if it might be disturbing that Matt's suggesting that this is just a part of who I am, and will it be snuffed out when I die, or it'll just make sense. It's nothing to worry about. It'll just make sense. I really believe that. I really believe that for people that have, but I still believe there are ramifications and consequences in this place. This place has nasty consequences. I don't think it's entirely about an experience. This is my own take, which is seems to be different than Alan Watts. It's just about experience. I still believe in the filter theory. I really do. I really believe that it's almost like it's designed to filter real things and real aspects from just crap that will eventually get flushed in a roach motel. Like my concept of passing through the filter, of getting yourself in the right state, using the tools of this life to get yourself into the right place and to do the work that's required here to be able to pass through the filter upon death. I really believe that. The Vannessa VA channel talked about, and this is similar to what I believe, because we're never sure what to call people. We call people NPCs, organic vessels. I've talked about the light inside people becoming dim. Soul tokens get removed, so that then enables them to take the download. And we're rooted somewhere else, and we say this is the way society's operating now. Don't make no sense, but nobody sees that. So we struggle with this. Are the NPCs? Is there any light inside them at all? Is there any soul? Are they the same? We struggle with this, and we'll never truly know. She talks about, hold on. She talks about three different types of people here. Like light souls would be people like me, people like you, people that really understand, have a real spiritual understanding of where they're coming from. The dark souls would be like NPCs that are just they just really there's no hope. There's no soul token left. Even if they wanted to, become a little bit different person, there's nothing left. And then she talks about like this gray area, gray souls that I've talked about in the past. Like the reality just tries to degrade these gray souls and to snuff the light. And in the gray area, she would say they still have a chance, to be turned from the dark side. Is that a metaphor in Star Wars or an analogy from Star Wars? Is that the purpose of it? To be turned. The whole point of Luke was trying to turn his father from the dark side. And then we saw in the second three, which are actually the first three, which still confused about that. But then we saw Anakin go from a nice little kid of light and turn to the dark side for reasons that are very linked to the seven deadly sins. And the big point of Luke was always trying to turn his father. I feel there's good in you, Father. I still feel there's good in you. You can't do that, Father. You're still good, whatever. Oh, well, there's still a little bit of light. Is that these gray souls? Is there still a way to bring a few people along? And we struggle with things like this. How many people are gray? How many are completely when we say what Vannessa would say, or we say black, obviously it has nothing to do with skin color. We're so triggered now to like, oh my God, we say something negative associated with that word, which is just ultimately it's just a color. It's not a racial thing, but we're so walk on eggshells because of what society dictates. So that's just the way it is. So we struggle with who's in, how many people are in each class or camp, and how many people are in that gray area. That there is a chance for them to discover an aspect of themselves or spiritual self. But this relates to a few concepts we've been talking about recently, a few videos back, about the wet cement. And it does feel like the door is closing on, you could say, these gray area souls in terms of figuring out who they are. I mean, you'd think when I didn't answer the first time, calling right back is not going to matter. Um, but the door's closing. There's a wet cement right now, and it is wet. But when will it harden up? Potentially the end of this year, the winter solstice, or the Saturn Jupiter conjunction. Even if you're not into all that astrology, you kind of get a feeling that right now this is the time of action. This is a time of fluidity. This is a time of if, yin and yang. If reality and the minions that control most aspects of this reality are going to take, then for those that can take, that's the yin, take the yang. The reality has to give. And what is he, Matt? What are you talking about? Give? My situation sucks. My business is about to go under. This and that. Yes, that's all horrible, but that's all things related to the 666 place. It's given tremendously, this situation. We have a completely new understanding of how the base level reality works. And it's not just a screen exercise. We can, once, if we get close to determining how a reality works and what exactly how the people around us are functioning, then we can use that information as a tool for ourselves. That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate. That's what this life's all about. I mean, that there's nothing better than that. It's screwing us left and right in this situation. We're in the second 9/11. It's the yin, then the yin. Okay, it's going to bite its shit sandwich. The yang must spin. We're learning so much about everything. So every morning I get up and I say, it's going to take, it must give. I say that every morning. If it's going to take, it must give. I'm going to take what it has to give by definition, by rule. So, but it's wet cement. And whether you're into the astrology or not, you get a sense, don't you, inside you, that at some point that cement will harden. At some point, these people that may be in the middle, that still have a few soul tokens or a little bit of light, don't you get a sense at some point it will be, let's not doom them and say impossible or the door now is locked. Let's just say it'll be 100 times harder once the cement sets up. I guess you can still break cement with a sledgehammer, but it will be 100 times harder once this period we're going through now. Again, the astrology, whether you care about it or not, it's a period. This is a very fluid, turbulent time of change, and at some point, the pendulum can't just swing out and just stay there. It will come back, and reality it might reset to a very, very degraded, like mask and crap. Like it'll set, but it'll be more stable. It'll feel more stable. It won't be like today. Every day we wake up, we say, "What's it going to throw at us today? What's it going to throw at us today?" That's what we know. We feel there's another shoe to drop, even on this crap. At some point, that this will go away. It will be okay. This new normal sucks, but it will. Even though it'll suck, the stress will go away, because then this will, like after 9/11. Okay, there was terrorist threats and they did their little color code, but we just got a sense that the big stuff's over. We have to take our shoes off at the airport. There wasn't that constant level of stress. What brings the highest level of stress is what's around the corner today, and that's that it'll settle in. When the cement hardens, they want it to settle into a much, much further degraded state that steals more soul tokens, that destroys more. The whole reality is set to, in my opinion, the whole reality is set to degrade this gray human being that potentially could go both ways. And most people in that gray area are being degraded down with the reality. As the reality pushes, they get pushed with it. Very few, although I think there are some that are, or it seems like a lot of people are finding kind of the place we're in now, but there may be hundreds of thousands, and that's great. But ultimately, it's not the millions and millions we would have hoped for when they pushed reality to such an absurd place. When they pushed reality, we would have said a year and a half ago, they present this stuff as being normal, but if they push reality literally into season 33 of the Bozo Show, people will wake up to it, right? If they push reality into season 666 of the Bozo Show, well, millions will wake up to it. We might not get 300 million, how many of our people in the United States, but we'll get 1 or 2 million to wake up, and that'll be a nice chunk of people that will join this truth community. And again, a year and a half ago, say, okay, if they put reality into the Bozo Show, well, they've put reality into the Bozo Show, and we're going, oh my goodness, like, I don't know, like, we're going to get a couple 100,000 people awake, but I don't know if we're going to get many more than that. Like, almost everybody's going along with this bull crap, and it's not even the Bozo Show. It's like the first season of the Three Stooges, and we're not getting as many people as we thought. So, how many? Maybe there aren't many left in that gray area. I don't know. I don't know. We'll never truly know exactly what's going on with the different types of people here: organic portals, NPCs, people with a little bit of soul left in them, or a light that can be enhanced. But so we'll just continue to ponder that. It's all very interesting talk, but the idea or the purpose of this video was to try to, I guess, just summarize and end it. It's getting kind of long. In people around us that we call the NPC, or those that sync up with the reality as reality changes, with what I call, for lack of better words, the download. Those that and I think I was saying one area where I disagreed with Vannessa VA, and I don't think I ever got to it. The one area where I think I disagreed with her, she said that they don't know who they are. Or maybe that's when the phone rang. That shit happens. They don't. How many are really aware of who they are? She said. How many are aware that they don't have the empathy or a spiritual side? Or now, I totally disagree. I think that class, like I talked about a friend of mine a few videos back, that those people that are that have no spiritual connection or no empathy, that would never ask you, why do you feel the way you feel, Matt? Explain it to me. They don't have any idea that there's anything wrong with them, in my opinion. They believe they are 100% normal, because they are. See, Vannessa was kind of saying, and I'm sorry if Vannessa, if I'm misinterpreting a bit. She's saying some may know who they are. Now, that to me is the minions, like George Soros. Some George Soroses might know who they are. They might know exactly the role. Anderson Cooper knows, unlike other news anchors, like he's in that back room. He knows exactly the role he's playing. Where most minions, news anchors almost all over the country, they just think they're helping people, even though they're serving exactly what the not Nilk reality wants. They're going along with it without being in on anything, like a download or any other explanation. George Soros, you'd say, do they know who they are? I love having that conversation about the minion level. Does Nora O'Donnell really know who she is? Or is she just a vessel that reads the teleprompter and actually believes it? Well, we can discuss that some other time. I think that's an appropriate discussion for that minion level. But for the regular people around us, that you give them a 9/11 video and they're like, I'm not, okay, I'll watch it. And then a month later, you didn't say anything about the video I gave you. Oh, I haven't watched it yet. I don't think I'm going to watch it. Just like those people around us, do they know who they are, or they have no sense to spiritual connection that's out of here? In my opinion, they have no sense of that. They believe they're 100% normal because they are to this reality. To this reality, this is all there is to them. They might not have connections to anything else or anywhere else or another dimension or a place out of here. They are completely normal to this reality. So they are 100% normal because we're here in this avatar. We're here. And they look at us, that of course we are the freaks and the oddballs, and they just can't understand why we went crazy around 2010 or 2012 or so. But what gives them away is being almost like downloaded vessels, or something that might not have the greatest connection to spiritual self. Is or Let's just put it that way. Let's put it in a mild way, in a better way for them. I wish these people the best. I hope we get millions to come over while the cement is still wet. But they don't, even though well, Matt thinks this and that, but they'll never have a conversation amongst themselves and say, well, did you ever, maybe, two of my friends say, let's go talk to him for 2 hours. It'll never happen. We sense it'll never, we know it'll never happen. So unfortunately, this is more of a characteristic of a downloaded species, or an empty vessel. Because a being of real spirit, caring, empathy to certain, I call it connections to out of this place, would say, we need to understand why our best friend went kind of nuts. And let's sit down and try to see if they had that, excuse me, if they had that, they would have enough to then be to turn their gray into the light side. Because if they had that and truly wanted to understand us and said, let's talk for an hour or two, I'd clean off the little outdoor table, and we'd go out back and sit down, and there would be an openness there that I think only comes with a non-downloaded being, a real person. It would be the openness, and it would be enough to get through to them. Well, Matt, let me understand. And you just see, I could start then with my series of wake up questions, because they initiated wanting to understand me. We'd be sitting down together, and I'd say, okay, guys, you want to understand? Explain how there could be an inflated tire at the bottom of the World Trade Center. Let me show you. If you forget, let me show you the video. You can pull up the video with the audio of just explode. It hits, and it's the loud boom and explode. Everything concrete and steel ripped apart. There's a few videos where just everything's ripped apart, and the guy ducks. So, this is a true story with Pam. 5 or 6 years ago, we were pulling up to get a sandwich at this little restaurant up here, and they had that little curb thing. They don't have it much anymore. In front of everybody's parking spot was that cement thing. They don't do that much anymore. And she hit that at 15 miles an hour, and the tire just popped, just by hitting a little cement thing. And here's what happened. Here's the look. Here's the picture of the. And if they really wanted to understand, they'd say, there is no inflated tire. Come on. Well, here's the Katie Couric and the Tom Brokaw, and here's a picture of it. And here's that guy, and the little chubby guy with his red hair walking by, who's not interested, and he just walks by. And they say, well, inflated tire. And they'd start to think, and say, let me show you a model of what Hanny Hanger did with the aerial maneuver, the Top Gun Maverick maneuver he did with Flight 77 to go into the Pentagon. Flew past it, 270-degree blind. See, they'd be the fact that they would come to guys, we could do this forever, of course. But the fact that they'd want to understand us they would be open enough where we would just simply be able to open the door, and at the end of the conversation, they would say, the world I knew it doesn't exist anymore. But they'll never go there. Like, the download won't enable them. The download, or the mind control measures, or the scripts that are so implanted into the mind, won't ever allow them to seek out why Matt thinks the way he does. So it's just more further evidence of the download. And it doesn't have to be an actual download, a mind or a consciousness that's just set up to run scripts, however the scripts come from, or wherever they come from. It just downloads just a way of thinking about it. And those Mandela affected have observed people taking downloads regarding Mandela effect answers. And that is a bit of information. We need to. I'll just acknowledge it now because it just came to me. I don't want to turn this into an ME conversation because it triggers a lot of people. But it's interesting when we've asked the ME questions to people and we've seen them change their answers on the fly, but initially give the correct answer. What does that tell us about them? And it's all related to what this conversation is all about. So I'd say if you build it, blank will come. And Tony said, they will come. If you build it, they will come. Everybody knows that. And then went on and did more questions. And he's, oh, that's right, Matt. You're a conspiracy theorist, and this is like another conspiracy theory. It was like, you know what? I don't know. I'm thinking about it more now, and I saw Field of Dreams probably 4 or 5 years ago. I'm thinking back to where I saw it, and it was, if you build it, he will come. Just change the answers. But the fact that it's interesting, guys. The fact that what does it tell us? The fact that they said it the right way to begin with. I don't think it. The more I think about it, probably doesn't prove very much about the type of person we're dealing with. It may simply, it just is more evidence that the reality does reset itself and is very fluid, and things change. And I believe I believe even we go along with the changes in reality in many ways. We're not completely isolated to it. That's why some Mandela effects affect me, but not Dan from Scarab Performance. I think it's possible the sky could have been red, or any other color, years ago. And of course, we remember reality. I think reality is fluid in a lot of ways. Potentially, reality resets. That's a bad example because it's so big, and people are like, I'm sure, rolling their eyes. But things. I'm just saying, I think we also can reset to the reality, or when there's a change. And it's always been blue to us, and it has always been blue, and that's what it seems like. So it's just there's these little areas called Mandela effects where we remember that it was something else, not a misread. It was 100% something else, and it meant. And what's going on right now, if you're not Mandela affected, what's going on now is a Mandela effect to a degree, because the people that are in this truth community that are really pissed off about why are people still in Pennsylvania and on the Northeast, the blue states, still every business, everyone has the mask. I mean, everyone. You can't. They'll throw you out most places now, even. And in some states, people are like, "Well, what, really?" They're like, yeah, it's that bad still. They'll throw you out. The level of energy here in Pennsylvania is horrible still. Horrible. Standing in line with people, nobody. It's horrible. They're sucking. It's more negative than in a lot of states. That like South Carolina opening up about their flea markets are crowded. Not everybody has a mask in all situations. But what's going on now is like a big ME, because even if you're not, supposedly you don't see Dolly's braces, or any of that trivial stuff, you still are rooted into another place. You're still saying this ain't normal. The reality's resetting to a State Farm new normal, and you're saying you're remembering what should be, or how things should play out, and it's resetting, and you're not going along with it. So you say, why are these people still going a mask, and you're rooted somewhere else. That's very similar to the Mandela effect. That is the Mandela effect. The reason people get frustrated, and I'll close it with this: people get frustrated, and they really shouldn't in our community. We should know enough by now where people say, why don't, based on the fact that we don't know, people just generally don't know anybody, or people dying and horribly ill. We might know one or two people that have it and recovered, but based on the nothingness of what this illness is, the putting society into this state, which and putting the economic jeopardy, which could ruin 100 million lives over the next 10 years. It's a lot just in North America. We said, well, why are people, going along with this? And we were still getting upset at them. But the reality has changed, has reset, and they've gone along with it. It's completely normal what's happening now. It's to these people around us, it's completely normal that 50,000 small businesses have to be put in jeopardy just over the next 6 weeks because to save people from a bad flu. That's not, that's, you're the one that's abnormal. You're the one holding on to what we would have done when reality was like what I remember in the late 70s or 80s. You're in the other place. These people that think what's going the mask, they think it's normal. It is normal. I said before, they're right. You're wrong. I'm wrong. They're right because this we're in there because what can I say? Well, maybe they'll be wrong when after we die and we can look down at the snow globe from someplace else. We're here now. And because we're here now, it's reality's moving. They're going along with it. It's completely normal. All the commercials on TV talking about new normal and talking about all this weird stuff that we just all the commercials need to do a video just on the commercials, how it just turns our stomach, how it's so obvious the orchestration of all of this because of the way commercial after commercial presents it, walking lockstep with the same type of language, the same type of Orwellian speak. We want to say to somebody, don't you see something wrong with this? Doesn't this seem a little odd? No, it's not odd. Realities change and they've just gone along with it. It's the downloaded mind. And we're somewhere else and they notice we're somewhere else and we're kind of nuts. They're right, we're wrong. If you see it that way, you can't be upset at these people. Okay? Well, anyway, there's whole things to talk about. Why we're immune to it. We've talked about all that stuff, but just a lot of concepts here to float. And I guess I will end the video at 36 minutes, which 400 people will interpret as 3/6.